Hey Wolfpack, and welcome back. I hope all is well, and I hope you enjoyed yesterday's holiday stories. Tonight, we're reading My Husband and I Are Hitmen. Our most recent case was definitely a weird one, written by ShabbyBoa. Now with that said, whether you're sitting around a campfire, on the night shift, or even laying in bed, let my voice soothe your nightmares. So many of you may remember the oh-so-romantic tale of how I met my wonderful husband, Mark. We went into business together after he saved my life and have been working as hitmen for a few years now. Normally, the cases are pretty cut and dry. I'll be honest with you, most of them are husbands or wives who pay us to kill off their spouse for either insurance money or because of infidelity. It honestly gets really annoying hearing the same old story over and over again. That's why when I got the call from the phone booth in the middle of Alabama from a young woman, I figured this was no different. "So, I'm not really sure how to do this," she started. I rolled my eyes. It may be insensitive considering that this woman has probably never ordered a hit on someone before, but this was my life. Every day of my life, the same shit. "I need you to take care of someone for me," she whispered into the phone, fear seeming to creep into her voice. Now, I was intrigued. This woman was scared, and that could mean a few things. Usually, it meant that she was a victim of some kind of abuse. "I need a name, address, and a bank account number," I said, not letting any emotions seep into my voice. It was easier to keep it plain and simple. Although, the reason behind the hits usually came out. Sometimes it was easier not to know. "I don't have an address exactly, but I can give you an area." I rolled my eyes again. She doesn't even have the information I need to make this as smooth as possible. We charge extra if we have to track them down. "His name is Joe Martine. He usually shows up on North Market Street. Sometimes he walks down 4th Street. Just depends on the day." I jotted this information down in my black notebook. I need a description. I hear her take a deep breath on the other end and could hear a slight tremble. He's about 6'1", maybe 200 pounds. Age is around 55 years. Brown hair, brown eyes, tattoo under left eye." A big breath comes from the other end of the line. "Right side of his head is blown off." I stared at the phone momentarily. Did I hear that right? Was this some bullshit call? "Hey, if this is some bullshit call, I swear to God, I will hunt you." "It's not bullshit. How can half his fucking head be gone? My mother hired your partner to kill him around 10 years ago." "Well, he never fucks up." "Well, he did." Blood began to pool in my face as I felt anger rise up in me. "Are you sure this is the same guy?" "I think I know what my own fucking father looks like." She all but screamed. I pulled the phone away from my ear and took a deep breath. "Okay, I will consult him. We require half the money now, half when the job is done. 2 separate accounts." "Okay." And then, the phone clicked and the call ended just as fast as it had started. I set the phone down and took another deep breath, staring at the information I had written on the page in front of me. Joel Martine, 55. Should be dead already. I stood and went into the kitchen to find Mark making pancakes while our daughter sat at the kitchen table, coloring pictures of princesses and unicorns. "Mommy, look!" Cecilia smiled as she held up her picture to proudly show me. Lily held hers up as well, copying everything her big sister did. I smiled. "Wow, those are really pretty." I walked over to Mark, who planted a light kiss on my cheek. I leaned against him as he flipped over a pancake. "We've got an interesting one," I said, softly. Mark set the last pancake onto a plate and covered both stacks with syrup. He set a plate in front of each girl and kissed each on top of the head before retreating to our office. I followed quietly as our daughters dug into their breakfast. Mark sat in his computer chair and looked up at me. Well? Some young girl called from what I assume was a phone booth in Alabama. Numbers not connected to any name. Mark nodded. Okay. She put a hit out on her father, Joel, 55-year-old male, 6'1", brown hair, brown eyes. Distinct markings? I chuckled slightly at this. Yeah, tattoo under the left eye and no right side of face. My husband stared at me for a moment in disbelief. Then he stood up. Okay, you got me. I'm not joking, and I don't think she was either. My husband rolled his eyes. You can't be serious. She said that they hired you a long time ago to do the hit. My husband looked at me, a bit of confusion in his eyes. Joel? I saw his eyes look up as he thought about his past and tried to recover any memories of this. Joel Martine, I clarified. My husband immediately met my gaze. What? That's his name, Martine. My husband began shaking his head and chuckling slightly. No way. This is just some bullshit prank call. She seemed pretty serious. He looked at me again, looking for any hints of joking in my face. He must have found none because he continued. I killed that man 10 years ago. I remember it very vividly. My husband sat back down and took a deep breath. His wife ordered the hit on him. After years of abuse, she was tired of living that way. She suspected he had begun sexually abusing their 8-year-old. Jesus Christ, I said softly. Cecilia was only 4, but I couldn't imagine someone doing that to her. I didn't even want to think about it. I shot him at point-blank range in the head. He died almost instantly. Well, clearly he didn't, because the girl is calling. I checked his goddamn pulse, Renee. He was dead. I watched my husband for a moment before deciding to believe him. Well, if he is dead, then how the hell is he walking around? And this girl said he killed her mother. How did he do that if he's dead? My husband set his head to his hands. I don't know. I took a deep breath and took his hand gently in mine. Maybe we should just meet him, not kill him? My husband looked up at me. Are you insane? Meet the guy I killed? Well, that's up for debate still. Mark rolled his eyes. I don't know. I think it's the only thing we can do. Mark took another deep breath before slowly nodding his head. I was always right. The next day, we dropped the kids off at Mark's parents' house and loaded up the car. We weren't sure if this was a hit or not because we really weren't sure what we were dealing with. We started the long ride to Alabama in near silence the entire way. Neither of us would say it, but we were both terrified of what we were about to encounter. We finally got to Alabama late that following night. We parked along the street with a clear view of North Market Street. We waited and waited, but never saw a man with half a face turn up. Instead, we saw a young woman, about 18, walk down the street. She looked around fearfully as she walked back towards a crummy apartment building. Something inside me just told me this was the girl who had called, so we decided to follow her. We parked the car and I got out to confront her. I walked up to her and she immediately recognized my voice the second I called out to her. It's you! I nodded slowly, unsure of what to say next. She sighed softly and in a near whisper said, Follow me, just you, not him. I assumed she was referring to Mark. I looked back at the car and gave him the signal to wait. He seemed to want to argue my decision, but I ultimately won and followed the young girl inside. We made our way up the stairs and into her small studio apartment. She sat down on her couch, tears already beginning to flow, and motioned for me to sit in a chair across from her. I cautiously sat down. I don't understand. We watched for hours and never saw any... I know, she said abruptly. Only I can see him. I began to shake my head, standing up to leave. This was just some psycho who was having some kind of mental break. Please, let me explain, she begged. I sat back down, watching her every move. I was unsure if I was in danger, but I didn't want to take any chances. My mother called your partner to take care of my dad years ago. Their relationship wasn't very good and sometimes things go physical. I hated that he sometimes hit her, but she hit him way more. I was so sick of the fighting and yelling. I just wanted them to break up and move on. I watched her face, trying to comprehend what this confession was about. I knew she wouldn't leave on her own, so I had to help her. I nodded slowly. Help her? She took a deep breath, a few more tears falling. I told her that he had been touching me. I bit my lip, hard, trying to hold back the words that wanted to pour out of my mouth. Lying about something like that was absolutely disgusting, even from an 8-year-old. I thought she would just leave him. She looked down at her lap. I didn't know she'd have him killed. Well, it's a pretty fucked up thing. I'd kill anyone I thought did that to my kids. She nodded, more tears falling, sniffling. I know. I didn't realize at 8. She sniffled again. I eventually came clean to my mom. When she found out the truth, she was devastated. She hung herself the next day. Oh my God, I said, breathlessly. I see her too sometimes. I watched her quietly, not sure of what to say. I see them both all the time. They are constant reminders of what I did. She took a deep breath. I thought I was helping at the time, but I was so wrong. I nodded. That was really fucked up. She took a deep breath and made eye contact with me again. I called you here because I wanted to put a hit out on myself. What? I said, taken aback. I want you to kill me. I can't live like this anymore. I took a deep breath and watched her for a moment. I could see the pain in her eyes. This woman had lived with this guilt for most of her life. She could never get rid of it, no matter what. While I was absolutely disgusted by the lies she had told, I felt bad for her all the same. She was just a child with no real concept of the consequences of her actions, and now she just wanted the punishment to end. I nodded quietly and asked for a glass of water. The young girl returned a few moments later with a glass of water, handing it over with a shaky hand. I took it gently and pulled a folded up piece of paper out of my pocket, sighing softly. I don't think that's the answer. What do you mean? I sighed softly. 10 years ago, when my husband confronted Joel about his accusations before ending his life, Joel begged my husband to let him write a short note to his daughter. My husband was hesitant because of what he believed Joel had been doing, but figured he would just keep the note and kill Joel. Joel scribbled something down on a piece of paper and folded it up, handing it to my husband. My husband never had the courage to read the note, but he never got rid of it. It was like some kind of sick souvenir. He never thought that it would actually reach its destination. However, when we got the call, he dug it up out of some old boxes and decided to bring it along, just in case. I think you should have it. The young lady unfolded the note and read it aloud. Haiti, I love you so much, and I forgive you. A loud sob escaped her mouth as tears poured out of her eyes. I sat the small revolver on the coffee table and made my exit. I heard a gunshot as I climbed into the passenger seat. Mark looked over at me. Well? We pulled out of the parking lot and headed towards a hotel for the night. I told him the entire story, and he smiled softly. I always knew you were soft. I rolled my eyes playfully. Yeah. It was really clever of you to write that note. Yeah, well, some clients are just so self-sufficient. Thanks for watching, Wolfpack. If you want to catch me by the fire next time, I upload every weekend including Friday. Don't forget to like the video as it helps me out more than you know. If you want to submit your story, head down to the description. Now, here's Roken to howl you off to sleep. Have beautiful nightmares.